It's one of the world's oldest and most painful conflicts, a land sacred to three religions, where every stone carries a story and every generation inherits war. Today, we travel through more than a century of struggle to understand how Israel and Palestine reached this point and why peace remains so far away. The story begins in the late 1800s. Palestine was part of the Ottoman Empire, home to Muslims, Christians, and Jews living side by side. The majority were Arab, but Jewish communities had lived there for centuries. As anti-Semitism and persecution spread across Europe, a movement called Zionism emerged. Led by Theodor Herzl, it sought to create a homeland for Jews in their ancestral land. The first Zionist Congress in 1897 gave this dream direction, and waves of Jewish immigrants, known as Aliyah, began arriving. By 1914, around 85,000 Jews lived among 700,000 Arabs. Tensions began to rise over land purchases and fears of displacement. During the First World War, Britain issued the Balfour Declaration, promising a national home for the Jewish people while protecting the rights of the non-Jewish population. That single document inspired hope among Jews and deep mistrust among Arabs. After the war, Britain took control of Palestine under a League of Nations mandate. It promised to prepare both peoples for self-rule, but its policies only deepened divisions. Jewish immigration rose sharply during the 1930s as Nazi persecution spread across Europe. Arab leaders feared being outnumbered in their own homeland. In 1936, resentment erupted into a large-scale Arab revolt. It lasted 3 years and was brutally suppressed by the British. In 1939, Britain issued the White Paper, restricting Jewish immigration and land sales. Jews felt betrayed. Arabs remained angry. The stage was set for the next tragedy. The Second World War changed everything. 6 million Jews were murdered in the Holocaust, and the call for a Jewish homeland became urgent. In 1947, the United Nations voted to partition Palestine into 2 states, one Jewish, one Arab, with Jerusalem under international control. Jewish leaders accepted the plan. Arab leaders rejected it, calling it unjust. When the British withdrew in May 1948, Jewish leaders declared the creation of the State of Israel. Within hours, 5 Arab armies invaded. When the fighting ended, Israel had not only survived, but expanded its control to about 77% of the territory. For Jews, it was independence. For Palestinians, it was al-Nakba, the catastrophe. Around 700,000 Palestinians fled or were expelled, becoming refugees across the region. No Palestinian state was established. Jordan took the West Bank. Egypt controlled Gaza. The map of the Middle East had changed forever. The decades that followed were marked by war and unrest. In 1956 came the Suez Crisis. In 1967, during the Six-Day War, Israel launched preemptive strikes against Egypt, Jordan, and Syria, capturing Gaza, the West Bank, East Jerusalem, the Sinai, and the Golan Heights. Another 300,000 Palestinians fled, and more than 1 million now lived under Israeli occupation. In 1973, Egypt and Syria attacked again in the Yom Kippur War, seeking to reclaim their lands. The war ended in a ceasefire, and later a peace treaty between Egypt and Israel. Palestinian nationalism grew stronger through the Palestine Liberation Organization, led by Yasser Arafat. To some, it was a liberation movement. To others, terrorism. In 1987, years of frustration exploded into the First Intifada, a popular uprising marked by protests, strikes, and violent clashes. Then, in 1993, came a moment of hope. The Oslo Accords. Israel recognized the PLO. The PLO recognized. In 2000, new peace talks failed. A visit by Ariel Sharon to the Al-Aqsa Mosque sparked outrage, and the Second Intifada began. It was far deadlier than the first. Suicide bombings, Israeli raids, and daily violence. Thousands were killed on both sides. Israel built a massive barrier through the West Bank, calling it protection. Palestinians called it apartheid. In 2005, Israel withdrew from Gaza. A year later, Hamas won elections, rejecting Israel's legitimacy. By 2007, internal fighting split the Palestinian leadership. Hamas in Gaza, Fatah in the West Bank. Since then, repeated wars have erupted. 2008, 2012, 2014, 2021, each leaving cities in ruins and civilians in mourning. As the Palestinian struggle entered yet another decade, a quiet shift began to unfold, not in Gaza or Jerusalem, but in distant palaces and glittering boardrooms across the Arab world. In 2020, under the Abraham Accords, Israel signed peace and trade agreements with the United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, Morocco, and Sudan. The world celebrated these accords as a new era of peace, as if the Middle East had finally turned a page. But for millions of Palestinians, it felt like abandonment. The same nations that once spoke of unity and resistance now opened embassies in Tel Aviv, signed defense deals, and shook hands, while Gaza remained under siege and the West Bank under occupation. Leaders smiled for cameras. Flags of Israel and Arab nations waved together in the desert wind. Trade routes reopened, jets carried tourists and businessmen, yet in the refugee camps of Palestine, hope quietly faded. The cause that once united the Muslim world was being traded for politics, for profit. October 7, 2023, marked a sudden and devastating escalation in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Hamas launched a surprise attack on Israel, firing thousands of rockets and targeting cities and towns. Over 1,200 Israelis were killed, mostly civilians, and hundreds were taken hostage. Israel responded with massive airstrikes and ground operations across Gaza. Entire neighborhoods were destroyed. Hospitals, schools, and markets reduced to rubble. By late 2024, Gaza health authorities reported more than 43,000 Palestinians killed. Nearly 2 million were displaced. Thousands of families forced from their homes. The blockade of Gaza, in place since 2007, worsened the humanitarian crisis. Food, medicine, electricity, and water became scarce. Hospitals overflowed. Children slept in basements. Families walked miles, searching for safety. Every day, a struggle. International organizations, including the UN and Red Cross, called for urgent ceasefires. Mediators from Egypt, Qatar, and the United States negotiated truces, but they repeatedly broke down over hostages, troop movements, and territorial control. By 2025, the war had not fully ended. Periodic clashes continued. Destruction remained widespread. and core issues, borders, refugees, and Jerusalem's status, remained unresolved. Decades have passed, yet the cries of Palestine and Israel still echo across the same land. A land where faith and fear, history and heartbreak live side by side. From the fall of empires to the rise of nations, from exile and occupation to hope and resistance, the story has never truly ended. Each generation inherits the wounds of the last, children growing up among ruins, learning the sound of sirens before the sound of peace. The world has watched, debated, and promised change. But for those who live behind the walls, under the rubble, and in refugee camps, hope feels like a fading photograph. Still, amid the ashes, humanity survives. Doctors treat the wounded by candlelight. Families rebuild with bare hands. And voices still rise, demanding dignity, freedom, and a future where both peoples can exist, not as enemies, but as equals. Peace in this land cannot be built by weapons or walls. It can only begin when compassion outweighs vengeance. When the world remembers that behind every headline is a human heart. Until that day, the story of Palestine and Israel remains unfinished. A story written not in ink, but in tears, dust, and the unbroken will to survive.